Good evening, Golden. I'm Mayor Laura Weinberg, and with me here tonight is our City Manager, Jason Slawinski. Thank you for joining us, for listening in for our weekly live briefing. We've been doing this for several weeks now, and I think they've been helpful for us as well as for you. Wanted to start by putting in a little perspective. Today marks 50 days since restaurants, bars, and entertainment venues were closed to in-person business. It's also been 41 days since we've been under the stay-at-home orders. It has been a long time, and it has been challenging, but I will say that it has also been working. The virus continues to circulate, and the number of cases continues to climb, but the number of new cases and hospitalizations are flattening, which is what the stay-at-home orders were all about. Your efforts and your continued adherence to the public health guidelines are making a difference, and I wanted to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who has been following the guidelines, who's been paying attention and supporting each other through these challenging times. In the next few days, we will move into a new phase of safer at home. This means that some businesses and service providers will be able to reopen if they can meet the safety guidelines. Businesses who have employees successfully working virtually should continue to encourage those employees to work virtually if possible. There will be employees in all types of businesses who are concerned about coming back to work. Each business must follow the public health guidelines, and every business environment is different because every size and layout of space is different. I encourage businesses to openly communicate the changes that you have put in place to protect your employees and your customers. Safer at Home still restricts the size of gatherings to 10 or less. That is in all locations, including parks and outdoor areas. This means that events, parades, and parties are prohibited. The best way to prevent transmission of the virus is through distancing, which means staying at home as much as possible and maintaining a 6-foot distance when outside of the home. The new partial reopening doesn't mean that the virus is no longer circulating or that we are not at risk of becoming ill. It does mean that our healthcare system now has enough capacity to admit those who become severely ill. If the healthcare system becomes overwhelmed again, we may have to go back to the safe-at-home orders. No one wants that to happen, which means that we all need to follow the data-driven public health guidelines that are provided to us by our healthcare experts so we can keep those numbers down. The best ways to protect yourself are still with thorough hand washing and not touching your face. This guidance has not changed over the past months. The guidance around face coverings has changed. While wearing a cloth face covering does not protect you from getting the virus, it does protect others from getting it from you. I wear a mask to protect you, and you wear a mask to protect me. We do it to protect those friends, family members, neighbors, and employees in our community who may be at risk for a serious case of the virus. Many of us will get the virus and survive, but others may not. When we individually and personally follow the data-backed guidance, we demonstrate caring for others and caring for our Golden community. City Council has taken the approach. We just had a special meeting a little bit earlier this evening where we adopted a resolution basically saying that businesses are in the best position to make the rules and enforce the rules for their place of business. The city will provide help with communication, signage, or other means of support for their business when possible. The Golden Police Department will also provide support if a customer is resistant to following the business's rules for service. Let's be partners in protecting our community with customers, business owners, employees, and the city working together. Public health and safety should not be a divisive issue. Finally, I fully expect that the Safer at Home orders will last for a while. Until new data is available, business closures will continue and group gathering sizes will be restricted. Even when we move forward to another phase, there will be restrictions. Summertime in Golden will be different. There will be new rules, there will be canceled events, and there will still be beloved amenities closed. It is going to be hard, and it is going to be challenging, not just to go back to how things were. But there will be things, new things, that we can do and try. The city is supporting anyone in Golden who wants to try their hand at a vegetable garden this summer with free seeds and compost. Local restaurants will continue to offer delicious takeaway and delivery meals, and retailers in Golden are now offering a great new gift card program. We will be able to spread out our outdoor exercise across more hours of the day as we get closer to the summer solstice. Our Golden community will continue to innovate and be creative on ways to support each other and stay connected while we are all remaining safer at home. So thank you all for doing your part. I'm going to turn it over to our city manager for some more specific updates and information from the city.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few points of information I'd like to share with you. And before I do that, I hope you're all staying safe and well. Two shout outs I'd like to make. First, today is National Nurses Day, and just wanted to say thank you to all of you who might be watching, who are nurses or who know of nurses in your families. They're doing a great job on all of our behalf, and I think it's appropriate to recognize them more importantly this year than probably any other year. And also this week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and also wanted to make mention of that. I know our teachers are struggling in a different way this year to educate all of our kids, and we are super appreciative of it and all their efforts to make that happen in this highly unusual environment. So thank you to our nurses and teachers. We recognize you this week. A couple of points of information I'd like to share. As the mayor mentioned, as we're moving into the Safer at Home plan beginning this Saturday on May 9th, there are a couple specific aspects that apply to our operations that I wanted to touch on. First, tennis courts will be allowed to be reopened. So we're going to follow that guidance, and we'll open those back up, limited to, I believe, 4 players at a time. We'll post that, whatever rules apply there on our courts. So you can expect to see that starting Saturday. No organized team sports or leagues will continue to be allowed, and this is per the CDPHE and Jeffco Public Health on any field or facilities, including municipal fields and facilities. And that extension goes through till the end of July. So we're not anticipating that we'll have a lot of those organized team activities happening, at least for the first part of the summer. Gyms, swimming pools, both indoor and outdoor, are to remain closed with these new Safer at Home restrictions. And so given this directive and this information, it is extremely unlikely that we'll be able to open Splash and our community center pool, but in particular Splash for the normal opening, which typically is around Memorial Day. That said, we will continue to monitor the guidance from public health as things progress to see if there is an opportunity perhaps to open it for the second half of summer. But I just want to set the realistic expectation that to meet that, our typical normal opening is extremely unlikely to happen, just because we need a significant amount of ramp up time to get ready. And unless the directives from public health agencies would change within the next day or two, it would be very unlikely to meet that target. Under the Safer at Home plan, playgrounds are still closed, so you will not see those reopening. They'll still be posted and taped off. We are reviewing the child care guidelines that CDPHE has put out and reviewing those and how they might apply to our own preschool program at Golden Community Center. We'd like to be able to provide that service, but again, we want to make sure we can do it in a safe way, and class sizes and other measures need to be taken, and the class size in particular needs to be severely restricted. So we're going to take a harder look at that and see if that's something that we're able to provide given the new restrictions. We are still awaiting some specific guidance as it relates to summer camps in Golden and how we put those on through our Parks and Recreation Department as well as Golden History Museum. And I expect to have that hopefully in the next week or so on what that might look like for summer camps. Again, everything seems to be structured around this idea of gatherings of 10 or more being a limiting factor, and so it makes a lot of these things difficult, especially when you have folks all in close proximity to one another. Today I was on a update call from state agencies, and one of the things that the CDPHE department mentioned was that May 18th would really be their next opportunity to review guidance and establish the next set of guidance that will be coming out as to what happens beyond Safer at Home. They need an opportunity to review the data as to what the current restrictions have, what kind of impact they have, positive or negative, on the number of cases we're seeing. So until that enough time passes and there's data to review and learn from, we won't know exactly how the current environment is playing out. So they're going to, May 18th would be the soonest opportunity that they're going to take a fresh look at that, potentially looking at what might be the next step. And probably would not have anything likely for implementation until June. So that's just kind of a general time frame of what you can expect moving forward as we learn more. Lastly, I wanted to mention that we did receive our first peek at our March sales tax numbers, and we were down 6.5% for the month of March. Which we expected to be down without question, because a lot of the businesses were closed beginning in March, and so it's not anything we didn't expect. And quite frankly, I think in just reviewing the initial data, it could have been a lot worse for as a revenue impact to the city. There are a lot of industries I know that are down, restaurants, hotels in particular. There are several, though, however, that were perform very well. Those are the ones that you would expect in this kind of environment where folks are getting supplies and groceries and so forth. So on balance, it was down 6.5% for the month. Our internal budget team is going to meet early next week and take a look at that, dig into the numbers a bit more. The good news is that overall revenues for the city through the end of March are still up by 1% for the year. So I wanted to just give that brief update. I think it's important information for you all to know, and we'll continue to keep a close eye on that as we move forward. Our next sales tax numbers won't be available for April until early June. So I think April is going to be the month where we see a bit more of an impact than we did in March, but again, we'll keep an eye on it and certainly have a lot more discussion about that. And I think that's all I had for updates for today. We did have a couple of questions that came in earlier, so we'll start with those. If you do have a question for us, feel free to email covid19@cityofgolden.net. That's on your screen, or also through Facebook Live, City of Golden, Colorado. We'll take a look at the initial questions we had here. There was a question from David and also from Christina that were emailed in, and these related to one topic Mayor, I don't think we have addressed, and that's food trucks and whether they are allowed in neighborhoods. So I don't know if you have some specific
I'll
thoughts to
just
start with.
speak generally because we received a number of questions about neighbors wanting to bring food trucks into a neighborhood parked on a city street for the purpose of neighbors being able to access the food truck and see each other. And this is not something that we've addressed and not something I've seen any public health guidance on it. Our local Golden restaurants have very specific instructions that and guidelines they must follow regarding providing meals and food for takeaway or delivery. I am not familiar with those guidelines for food trucks. We do not have many food trucks that are based in Golden. Most of the food trucks that come to Golden for the breweries or on private property are from outside of the city. So it is not something that we've looked at yet. The city does have guidelines around food trucks parked in streets and serving meals from streets, mainly to consider if this is an event, is this in competition with local restaurants? Those guidelines were put in place a number of years ago. I understand the request for wanting to have something for the neighborhood, but I think we would need to take a look seriously at the public health impacts and guidelines around food trucks, as well as that guideline around the prohibition on gatherings of 10 or less people. And that could certainly be the case if a food truck would be brought in as an event, a one time on a given date and time, that it might exceed that gathering rule. So I don't think it's as easy as let's just have food trucks. There's both the public health side as well as our current rules around bringing food trucks into city streets. So thank you for the emails. I know there's some folks who feel passionately about being able to do this in their neighborhood. And I think since we have not looked at this before, that the city would need to take a look at all of those aspects before making changes to our current policies.
We did have a question from Debbie through an email, and it was a rather lengthy email, so I won't read the whole thing, but the topic was a family member that skateboards, having been asked to leave parks on several occasions in the past couple of weeks, despite social distancing, wearing a mask, and observing health guidelines. Without specific details, Debbie, it's hard to address your concern. If you have details, I'm happy to hear them and chat with the police department more about it. I do know that where we have stopped people and we have perhaps interrupted their activity is when there's social gathering happening in greater numbers than what is allowed. And I know that does occur regularly at our skateboard park at Ulysses Park. So if it's specifically that area that you're talking about, that might be why. But if there are other instances that you're concerned about, feel free to send me the specifics. I'm happy to address them with you directly.
And Jason, is the skate park still closed?
I believe it is still closed, as all of the recreation facilities themselves are required to be closed. I haven't received any other specific guidance on the skate park as we move to safer at home. That's something we'll have to look at a bit more. But again, the gathering of 10 or more is going to be the difficult part, especially with the skate park. Any questions we've received so far through email or Facebook Live?
Yes, we have one statement and then a question from Heather. She says, first, thank you for empowering local businesses to protect our customers and ourselves by requiring face coverings inside our businesses. These next few weeks are critical times for safety for inside retail business. Rockin' Horse Antiques opening Saturday, May 9th. Now the question is, do you still have a plan to provide face coverings to local businesses for customers who need them?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
Do you have a plan to provide face coverings to local businesses for customers who need them?
We don't have a current plan for the city to provide them. What we can potentially do is look at what organizations might have resources available and publish that information, at least so there's contact information out there for those who might be able to provide face coverings. And I'm not sure that if we do that already on our website, but I'll double check that, and that's something that I think we could do if we get that information.
Yeah, the availability of sort of mass-produced face coverings has been challenged for cities and counties and organizations to be able to buy a large number of them. The city will have to, when the city buildings reopen, for individuals to be able to come into our buildings, the city will have to provide face coverings in our facilities, just as businesses choosing to do so. It would be a nice gesture to provide them for your customers. But I do understand and appreciate that it is hard to come by and they are hard to find in mass quantities, which is, you know, a part of the reason why we are leaving the decision up to businesses who feel comfortable both requiring and enforcing it at their place of business. There are wonderful groups, nonprofits, mask makers, the Colorado Mask Maker Group. There's lots of groups that all have great names with the word mask in them that I can't remember off the top of my head, that are making masks and making them available to people who need them.
Yeah, supply always tends to be the issue on that one, and I know a lot of organizations struggle with it. But good luck on your reopening, and we hope you do well.
And the Rocky Mountain Quilt Museum does have a pattern on their website for people to make their own masks as well, just something for people to look up if they'd like.
That's great. And really, you know, the term mask, it's any kind of face covering. And, you know, even just on my way here, I saw multiple people out walking their dogs with a bandana. It's any cloth covering that can go over your nose and mouth. It doesn't have to be a sewn mask. It doesn't have to be something that ties or goes around the ears. It's really a face covering, and that is what is being encouraged, strongly encouraged, both by the governor and the state, as well as our county public health. So I think if we go towards thinking about them as face coverings more so than maybe a specific mask that's required, perhaps we can be creative and find some cloth face coverings.
Nothing else.
There was one other thing I just wanted to mention while we're waiting, if I could find it. Last week, I think it was last week, the governor, when he provided a community engagement update on Safer at Home, also mentioned that he had created an advisory committee for cooperation and implementation. And really this advisory committee is both to make sure that we're hitting as a state the benchmarks, the numbers that we need to continue to move forward in reopening, and also that the rules, the public health rules, are enforceable. And so to do that, it's a board of county commissioners, mayors, local public health officials, county sheriff, police chief, fire chief of large and small cities from around the state. And I will say that for Jefferson County, our county sheriff, Jeff Schrader, is on that committee representing our county and our interests and making sure that the policies and regulations that are put forward for the state that are there to protect our health, to maximize distancing, to restrict gatherings, that they are able to be enforceable as we continue to move forward for the next number of weeks. So wanted to mention that we do have some representation from Jefferson County on this statewide board that is looking at the current and new regulations that may come forward.
So I think we had another question that came in.
Yes. So Heather, who asked about the face coverings, just commented, "Thank you. We plan to provide face covers with a suggested $1 donation," which I think a lot of businesses are talking about right now. We have a couple questions coming in via email. The first is from Connie. "Since tennis courts will be available, is there also a possibility of pickleball courts being available?"
I believe the answer to that is yes. I know at least one of our tennis courts might be striped as a pickleball court along 10th Street. So that one also would be, I think, available for pickleball as well.
Next question is from Bobby. Thanks for all the up-to-date information provided on the weekly coronavirus community briefings. Can you please provide an update on opening Clear Creek to boating and kayaks?
So that's a great question, Bobby. I appreciate the question. And actually, it's been a question we've been getting a few times now about the creek closure itself. In typical situations where we have the closure, it's due to the water conditions of flow and the level of water in the creek. And as you know, it's usually in the spring months where we see that. This specific closure is not related to the condition of the water itself, but rather our concern that the gathering we would have on warm days with the number of people in the creek, plus the risk to our first responders of having to potentially rescue people who are in the creek who get themselves into trouble. The combination of those things is where this closure is in place for. And it's done not only through our police chief here in Golden, but also Jefferson County Sheriff Jeff Schrader. They work in conjunction on this effort. So anything, and we've had this question come up of what does this closure apply to? It's really anything that is in the water, any activity that's in the water. If you're sitting out on a rock sunbathing, if you are fishing from the shore, those kind of things are allowed. It's when you're in the water itself is what causes our concern, because not only does it encourage other people to get in the water when they see someone in the water, but it does put potentially our first responders at risk who might have to go in and rescue you. As to a reopening of that, we'll take a look as time progresses as to what these new public health guidelines look like. I don't have a specific date for you at this point. I know the sheriff and our police chief, Bill Kilpatrick, talk regularly about it, and we'll open it as soon as we can. I know it's a valuable resource to those in our community. Other questions that have come in?
Not at this time.
We did have two emails earlier that weren't questions, but were more comments about having read our informer where we highlighted some businesses. They wanted to point out that there were some other businesses in town that were helping out. McKinstry is helping local businesses as well as School of Mines. And Yeti Cycles is helping to make some of the face shields that we've seen. So we appreciate them and all of our businesses for helping to do their part.
Yep, just some other general updates. Now that we're in the month of May, the city's boards and commissions have begun meeting again. So even though we are still doing things virtually as a city and city buildings are still closed for the most part for folks wanting to come in for business, we are getting slowly back to our regular routine with city council meeting virtually as well as now our boards and commissions. So I encourage you to tune into those and check out what's on their agenda for the upcoming meetings this month. City Council will meet 3 times this month, 2 regular meetings and a study session. So we will continue to work on the city's business. As Jason mentioned, we are also working on the economic recovery side of things, looking at the sales tax numbers, looking at the budget and impacts to the budget. So that will be a big part of the conversation this month and into next month. We are also working in a small special events committee to look at the special events that are held in Golden each summer. And those event holders, most of the events are not events put on by the City of Golden. Those event holders are making those decisions, and I hope that as their boards and their committees make those decisions, that they start communicating out, and the city can certainly help make sure that communication reaches all of us as to what they plan to do for their event for this summer. Given that the gatherings right now are restricted to 10, it's probably not going to go from 10 to 10,000 in the next jump. So it's going to be a gradual increase in size, but many of our events in Golden in the summer are in the thousands. So hopefully we will be able to set those right expectations for our summer and know if there's some creative new ideas or if there's going to be some postponements on those summer events.
I think we had another question come in.
Yes. Vicky asked, where are the free seeds for gardening available? And I can answer that too I don't know if you guys know the direct link.
Yeah,
but
there's a wonderful page on the city website that I've looked at and has great information, but I think Carlin has the actual address on how to get to that city webpage.
It is cityofgolden.net/Victory Garden. That's simple.
Oh, that's easy enough.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Any other questions that have come in? No?
No?
Nothing else.
All right. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we haven't covered. Certainly, just a reminder, Saturday moving to the Safer at Home is a step in the right direction for all of us, but it is not a complete going back to normal. It is a gradual reopening. We still need to stay at home as much as possible. We still need to follow all of the guidelines for distancing, for wearing face coverings, for protecting each other in our community, and supporting our local businesses. It's very exciting to hear about businesses who are able to reopen. There are still businesses and nonprofits, things like museums, theaters, performance spaces, restaurants who are still not able to open for in-person. So please keep them in mind, continue to support them, continue to support our local Golden businesses and local Golden economy as you're itching to get out and do more. Think about supporting those that are here in Golden so that we can make sure that they continue to thrive and when they reopen their doors, they can continue to serve all of us here. I also just want to thank everybody. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's been 41 days since we've been staying at home, and I sense increasing frustration levels in the community. I sense folks really wanting to get out with the weather being nicer, with lots more reason to be outdoors and get together with folks with Mother's Day and graduation and all of the things that happen this time of year. But please do remember that this is not a normal year, that we need to still creatively figure out how we can still get together while remaining socially distant and have those celebrations without being side by side. And, if you haven't seen the Congratulations Class of 2020 banner, it is hanging under the arch on Washington. I encourage anybody who's a graduate this year, regardless of where you're graduating from. It says Golden High School and Colorado School of Mines, but if you're a college student from a college out of state who happens to be back home in Golden and want to put on your cap and gown and take a picture under the arch, I think that'd be a great memory to have. So that will be up, I think, for 2 weeks, so we have the rest of this week and next week for the opportunity for your photo shoot, and maybe post them. I think the community would like to see you in your cap and gown on Washington, and be able to congratulate you as well.
We still have signs available if you'd like to mention those.
The yard signs, if you can focus on that and see that in your screen there, feel free to email covid19@cityofgolden.net if you'd like a sign. We'll connect with you and make sure you get one. Any other last-minute questions?
Right.
Appreciate your time, Golden. Thank you very much. I guess we'll be back again next Wednesday and sharing whatever updates we can.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you. Good night.
COVID-19, but to council comments and
Yeah.
things. And so I don't know that they